Good morning, Harry. You're booming in again, and absolutely no copy on Graham on Toranui. This has been interesting propagation the last few days. Nothing much from the east, but you are absolutely booming in here. Over.
Okay, Taranui is passing Matuka for Mandanui. I'm sure I've pronounced that wrong. It's an overnighter, and Graham, anything else? Kandavu, sorry, I got that wrong, Patricia.
Yep, I heard the Kandavu from you earlier. Yes, well, it's a lot better up there than it is where you are. It doesn't look very pleasant in New Caledonia at the moment.
No, about 80% cover quite high. No wind, and the pressure is 1021, but that's about all.
Okay, thank you for that, and good that you are by the radio there because I might need you. And good morning to everybody on frequency this morning. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, ZMH 286. Patricia and David with you again. Actually, I've just looked outside and I'm going to adjust my 100% cloud cover that I wrote before and make it about 80%. We have had a very, very stormy night. So regardless of what weather you've got up there, it is worse here. Although David did say that at Port Vila last night, your temperature dropped to 13 degrees, which is exactly what ours did, 13 degrees as it is at the moment. Our barometer is finally going up again, 1001.8 and rising. 13 knots from the southwest, a bit gusty, but boy, did we have the trough go through last night at about midnight, of course. Really, really stormy. All right, so that's the nasty weather news from here. And before I find out who else might be hearing us, and by the way, folks, if you are having a struggle and you have got a good cheap connection for the phone, we are on streaming, of course, and that might be the easier way for you to hear your weather coming up on the half hour. Meanwhile, I will give just a bit of news. The most recent news is not too good from Italy. I know we have some Italian cruisers listening. There has been a very long bridge, a cable-stayed bridge near Genoa. It's the one that goes on the A10 from Genoa to Genoa Airport. I've actually been on that myself. It has collapsed, killing 35 people. A lot of traffic on it at the time. At its highest point, it's about 100 metres high, so it would not have been a good trip to the bottom. It was under maintenance, and there was a violent storm, whether that had something to do with what was going on. But anyway, that bridge has collapsed. It's called the Morandi Bridge, for those of you that know it. And while we're overseas and talking about cruises that have come from various parts, I know we have some from Pennsylvania. There has been some flash flooding, very, very heavy rains and flooding to parts of the central and eastern area of Pennsylvania, from Williamsport almost to the suburbs of Philadelphia, closing the main interstate highway and generally flooding homes and the like. So those of you with friends and family might want to check up on them. Closer to home, the roads are going to be less busy here in the main centres today because the primary school teachers are on strike. This is not a very common event for primary school teachers. It's only the fourth time in 135 years. They want a 16% pay rise over 2 years, which would cost the country an awful lot of money, particularly coming on the heels of the nurses' settlement, I think it was last week. So they're going to have big parades down Queen Street and Christchurch and Wellington today. Not a very good day to be out there, but anyway, that's what they're going to be doing. Oh, did I mention that we've had a lot of rain as well? So just as well people did some lawn mowing in the weekend. What else is going on? Oh, well, the flu season. And I haven't heard anything coming through your reports on flu in the islands. Usually at this time of year, everyone's croaking and muttering about having a bug or two. But the flu season evidently doesn't peak in New Zealand until mid to late August, but the hospitals are getting overloaded already, so that's a little bit unusual. Going back overseas to the UK this time, London is on alert after a car slammed into security barriers outside the Houses of Parliament last night. No life-threatening injuries. They crossed the wrong way, crossed through the barriers and hit a couple of cyclists, but no bad injuries. And a man was detained. I love the way they say a man was detained. Almost you sort of think that somebody said, "Excuse me, sir, would you mind getting out of your car that's just smashed through these cyclists and accompanying us for further questioning?" I don't think it was quite like that, based on the photos that we saw in the paper with all sorts of ammunition pointed in his direction. But anyway, he has been detained and will no doubt be answering questions as we speak. All right, that's about as far as I got this morning. As I mentioned, we are a little bit on the sleepy side after a stormy night last night, so you'll have to forgive us if we hum and ha and yawn, as I'm hearing from the side here at the moment. Is there anybody with anything from you? And I would quite like to hear if we're actually getting out to Fiji and Tonga. This is Gold Harbour Radio. Any calls? Oh, good morning to you. I hope all the varnishing's done, Trevor.
He wasn't here. He should come again.
I thought you were talking to maybe picking up someone else. Sorry, but you were talking to me. I was just asking Trevor, and this is Villamy, if all of the varnishing is finished. Over.
Yep, all done.
You don't have much to do on that boat, so I think it's only the cap rails, isn't it? All right, so it doesn't sound as if you are copying us very well in Fiji. Is that correct?
Yep, got a reasonable copy on it.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good. All right, and haven't seen anybody on streaming, but it still looks as if it's working, so we'll see what happens there. All right, is there anybody in Tonga that could give me a signal report? Well, it doesn't look as if we're getting through to Tonga. I must have a look at the propagation and see what's going on there. Going up to Savu, Pilgrim, I wonder if you're listening and can let me know if Exocet Strike has got into Savu. We knew that they left Pango, and I expected to hear from them, but nothing has been heard. Pilgrim, are you on frequency, Ron? Is there anybody listening in Savu that can give me a report? Well, there you are. Okay, no problems. I'm glad you're there. So that obviously went well. Thanks for coming back to me. What is my signal like in Savu? Over. Oh, that's excellent. All right, well, I'll let you get back to it. So you're entering Savu very shortly. Thank you for that. So all is well with you. That took a bit of a while, didn't it? All right, well, I'll just have a quick scan through everything else. There's nothing much come through on streaming, not on streaming, on the It site at the moment, so nothing much to report there. By the way, folks, some of you will need to upgrade your web browser software if you haven't done so. I know a lot of people over the year or two that it takes to get from Europe to New Zealand or wherever, you don't do those sorts of things. But if you are having any trouble getting onto sites, like banking sites or whatever, then you are going to have to upgrade your software, particularly if you have Chrome, because they've started to, there is a problem with Symantec. That's not up to speed with what is needed for security at the moment. So just if you are having trouble with your browser, well, getting onto some sites, then that's going to be the problem. I won't go into great detail, A, because I don't really understand it all, but B, because it is quite detailed. But if you could just keep that in mind, Shirley there. Thank you for that. All right, is there anybody else? Because otherwise we'll get on to the weather a bit early today. Gracious lady sitting there patiently, you're waiting to, well, you would be hopefully all wooled up because I heard it's quite cool in Port Vila, and you're looking at passage out of there back to Oz, and I'd have to tell you that you better be going to Queensland because it has been pretty nippy down at Coffs Harbour, Harry, and other places. So, gracious lady, go ahead, Hillary. Well, I didn't get much of that, and so I will go to Malua, although you are quite close to them. Harry, could you do any relay from there, or are you having a struggle?
I'll try, gracious lady. This is Malua relay. Go ahead. You are looking to
A passage.
Port Vila this Wednesday. Is that today or in 7 days' time? In 7 days' time. Any more information? No. And what is your destination in Oz? Bundaberg.
Where's
Bundaberg,
your name?
okay. And will you be going south of Newcastle or north? North. Okay, good.
Yeah, I actually have got Hillary. He came up quite well after that. So, yes, they're going from Port Vila to Chesterfield to check that one out, and then to Bundaberg. So, thank you for that. And good that you two are in contact because you're pretty much going, well, sort of in the same direction, except they're going to have an interesting stop at Chesterfield. All right, you've got that, Hillary, and in 1 week's time, so Wednesday next week, I'll make a note of that, and we'll...
But he doesn't go.
Oh, David has just said, well, that's not very nice. David has just said he bets you won't go. So we're going to pass the microphone and just see. He must have dusted off the crystal
We
ball.
talked about it yesterday.
Oh, you talked about it yesterday, says David. All right, well, let's hear about that. And I'll just check if there's anybody else out there wanting a forward look from the depressing person beside me. Anybody else before I pass the microphone? All right, let's pass the microphone to the weatherman.
You know, it's weather that's interesting. It's climate that's boring. So,
Oh, God.
you know, you got to enjoy weather when you have it. All right, good morning, everybody. At 500 millibar, at the moment, at 500 millibar, we're looking at our shortwave that we talked about yesterday. That trough is moving east. The axis sort of on the date line. The center is over the Chathams, but the wave is left leaning. In other words, it's angling off to the west with a surprising amount of vorticity just to the west of New Caledonia. So on the surface, we've got a frontal band that runs over Raoul Island, extends way up there to the Loyalties, and then the tail of it becomes quite an active trough. And that you can thank for the upward vorticity that we just talked about at 500 millibar. So that's causing an active trough that runs up to the Louisiades, and as a matter of fact, it is now drifting over to the Solomons. Now, the New Zealand surface depression is centered this morning just east of Napier, and we have a slew of troughs that are pushing north over the cruising route. The whole cruising route area is just covered in troughs. Now, a 500 millibar ridge lies over the Tasman, and underneath that is a 1025 high that's thrusting its ridge east-northeast, trying to get toward Fiji. Now, the depression that's near New Zealand, it's a very angry depression. It's a 992 millibar piece of work. So we've got a 33 millibar pressure differential between that and the high that's up to the northwest. So that's plenty of wind for the swash zone that is between New Zealand and 30 south. It's pretty nasty out there, folks. You would not want to be in that area. Not now. Now, by Thursday, the surface high is going to move to just south of New Caledonia, while our New Zealand depression shifts to the east. However, there is a very deep Southern Ocean depression that does remain, and oh boy, it's a whopper of a storm. The central pressure 964. 964. Yep, that is a nasty, nasty piece of work. You would not want to be near this thing unless you are on a passenger jet. Now, by lunch on Friday, we have a new low that's going to form east of Timaru in the South Island. Actually, west of Timaru, I misspoke. And it's going to provide cyclonic flow over the entire cruising route. So in other words, a lot of southwesterly winds from New Zealand all the way up to 25 south. Now our high that I've been talking about, that 1025 high, that spreads out at that time. It spreads out as a very weak ridge, and it's going to provide very little air to sail if anybody is between 25 south and almost up to the islands. Just very little pressure differential there. But there is still a lot of activity in the deep tropics. I mentioned the trough that's getting over to the Solomons now. Well, there's another one that's also over the Solomons, and it's running to Tuvalu, goes on to Wallis, and on to Niue, very close to Niue. And we have yet another one that affects Tokelau, and then it just basically goes north of Samoa, doesn't quite get to Samoa, and then off to the east-southeast. And lastly, we have a trough that lies over the northern cuts. Again, very, very common to see that. For the last 3 cruising seasons, we've seen that. So there's 4 separate troughs up there, and that's an example, by the way, of why you don't hear me use the term SPCZ, or South Pacific Convergence Zone, very often. It's far too broad of a term for operational forecasting, and that's exactly what I do, is operational forecasting. So I like to call the troughs as I see them, and it makes more sense that way, especially if you're up there. Okay, moving to Tonga, remnants of the troughs are still affecting the kingdom there. Don't know if anybody is hearing us in Tonga, but satellite imagery is showing plenty of cloud moving from the northwest to the southeast rather smartly. As a result, you could expect cloudy periods there, possibly overcast conditions with scattered showers. Still pretty cool at night, and about the same thing tomorrow. Tonga Met calls for west to southwest winds to 25 knots. Now, I don't quite see that much wind, but Tonga Tapu should definitely have southwest winds. But as you go further north, the winds are going to back to the south-southwest for the Hapais and southerly for Vavau, and not quite that strong. Over to Fiji, there's plenty of cloud as well, reports that we've gotten, as well as satellite imagery. And those clouds are also moving northwest to southeast, the upper clouds anyhow, and there is rain in them. So expect cloudy periods with isolated or brief showers today. Southerly winds 15 to 20 through most of the group out in the open water, shifting probably southeast tomorrow, and that'll be 15 to 20 as well. There's a moderate southerly swell rolling in, which is not surprising, looking at the very nasty lows that are down to the south. Radar this morning shows sprinkles here and there, but, well, not much of anything. Vanuatu, they have their share of cloud as well. A fairly active band runs from Erromango down to Anisha, and bands are obvious from the banks south to Malapua, even Port Vila. So today expect cloudy conditions with showers just here and there. Good old Tana, still pretty cold, 14°C last night. And as Patricia said earlier, that was actually beaten by Port Vila at 13°C. Both that's cold, 13°C. And numbing showers as well. The airports were reporting rain early this morning and last night. Now, Newcal is under the influence of the frontal band that we talked about a minute ago. So expect rain showers from Noumea to our southern lagoon, more like scattered showers a little bit later on. The wind south-southeast 10 to 15, except for gusts from the downfalls. Now, we'll still see cloud tomorrow, I think. There'll be plenty of sun breaks, though. Winds east-southeast in the 10-knot range, fairly light air. Longer range, I'm looking at a shift of wind to the west-southwest, maybe around Saturday, late Saturday. So if you're in a spot that is open to that direction, you might want to think about that. But we'll see if that really happens. And that's it. Any questions or comments come now, and I'll pass it over to the chief to field your calls. Chief.
And we have 100% cloud cover again, which just goes to show that we have not very pleasant weather here. All right, is there any further clarification needed, or are you just going to sit on your fingers for a while and see what transpires? Anybody wanting any help?
This is Malua, the 9640. Where is that located? I missed that.
Don't worry about it. It's well to the south of New Zealand. All it's going to do is send up some swells. I just thought you might be interested. That's all. Over.
Okay, thanks. You mentioned yesterday a low in the bites, Australian bites. Is that disappeared?
Oh, that's moving along, and well, that is what I was talking about on our yacht that wants to move from Fiji to go westward next week.
No, that's Port Vila too.
Yeah, well, that's when it's about going to arrive in Port Vila, and well, actually, it's going to arrive in Fiji, then Port Vila a little bit sooner than that. But the way it's angled, at least the way it looks now, it's going to affect Port Vila at about the same time that it will southern Fiji. So in the Tuesday, Wednesday time frame, a week from now, that's what I see possibly happening. But that's just a possibility. And being a week out, the models will no doubt change their minds. But I like to give people a heads up just in case. Over.
Thank you very much, David.
Anybody else? No, nothing heard, so we'll leave the frequency open to you. We're having good brief sessions lately, which is good because we can get back to reading the very boring newspaper and deciding what we're going to do today in this weather. All right, we'll be back again tomorrow, same time, same place. So now the frequency is all yours. Have a good day, everybody. This is Gulf Harbour Radio Clear.
Gulf Harbour Radio, this is Malua.
Go ahead, Harry.
I had real difficulty hearing you yesterday on 40315. I heard Eye Candy very well, but you were almost impossible to hear.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? We have, the day before was way worse. 20 metres has been a disaster lately. On, was it Monday? Yeah, we actually gave up on the net. And I was surprised that, you would have probably had a better chance with our station down in Bluff, but he wasn't on yesterday. But yeah, that was interesting because normally with where the various stations are sited, somebody would have been able to pick you up. But yeah, that's interesting. No, 20 metres has been a real problem, Harry. Over.
Yeah, I've just come on a bit late, but I was able to talk to Eye Candy very well, but had difficulty hearing you.
Yeah, it's good that you were able to pick them up. So yeah, I haven't heard from him today at all. So he might come in later on the net, so we'll have a listen and see. But yeah, boy, it's been difficult, and 40 metres hasn't been much better either. So we're all sort of struggling and wondering where this damned radio work is going, because it's really hard to encourage people to use their radio when the conditions are so bad. Over.
Yes, I agree with you. It's hard getting people to use them, but they don't know what they're losing. Okay, Patricia, catch you tomorrow.
Alrighty, thanks Harry, and thanks for the report. So it's always useful to know what's going on in the different directions. Cheers. Yeah, good morning, Graham. I've only got you very, very lightly. But if you can copy me, I went to the meeting last night. I went to the meeting, the Gulf Harbour Berth Holders meeting. It was pretty much as it usually is. There is a lot of work going on. All of the marinas in the Auckland area, have banded together to fight Panuka with the business of taking over land. So they are all together, which is good now, because they have managed to delay and in some cases halt things. The hammerhead will stay as it is. The hammerhead will definitely stay as it is. The big argument is the car parks, lots 1 and 2, the car parks. That has now been deferred until September with council, but there is a very important meeting later this month, and if possible, if you could get a proxy to the Berth Holders Association, we need the numbers to stop the possibility of losing the car parks. I will send an email just in case you get near email service, but that's where it is at the moment. There is a meeting coming up, and we just need the numbers to stop any further development or potential loss of the car park area. Did you copy anything of that, Graham? I will send an email. Over. Oh, that's good. I heard all copied, but I will put something in the system. And the same with you, Bill, on Liberation. If you are listening, I'll send something into the system so that you know what's going on and know what you could do if possible. Okay, cheers to you both. Over.
Very good.